Have you ever wished you could get the value of an MBA, but, tailored for the exact career step you're about to take? Well, today we're going to map out a journey that does exactly that. Think of it as a practical guide for your own professional growth. Let's call it the Professional's MBA.
So let's start with a really direct question for you. What is your next step? Are you aiming to lead your very first team? Or maybe you're looking to run a whole business unit? Or hey, maybe even the entire company? Knowing where you want to go, well, that's always the first move.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll check out a fresh take on the MBA. Then, we're going to walk through 4 critical leadership roles: the manager, the general manager, the CEO, and a really fascinating fourth path, the entrepreneur. So let's get into it.
Okay, so what is this new approach all about? It's a program called Professor of Practice, or Prof P for short, and you shouldn't think of it like a traditional MBA. It's more of a practical alternative, really, built from the ground up for professionals who need skills they can use, like tomorrow, for that next big career jump.
And this whole framework, it's a solid collaboration. It brings together the big picture global business smarts of metal with Yancha's deep focus on practical, hands-on career development. It creates this really unique and grounded way to learn.
At its core, the entire program is built around 4 distinct career tracks, and each one is specifically designed to help you navigate a major leap, not just in responsibility, but in your whole perspective.
Empowering these 4 tracks are 16 specialized in-depth modules. This is really where the rubber meets the road, where that practical, hands-on skill building comes to life.
So let's dive into that first track, the manager. This is the foundation, right? It's designed for anyone making that huge, critical first leap from being a rock star performer into a leadership role.
You know what's so wild about this transition is the massive mindset shift. It's no longer about how well you do the task, it's all about how well you can get your team to do the work. And let me tell you, that is a huge and often pretty tough change.
Now, to help you make that leap, this first track zeroes in on 5 essential areas. And you can see it's a mix of skills, not just the people skills of managing, but also the hard skills and things like finance and sales that really drive business results from day one.
Let's put a little spotlight on finance for non-finance. Why is this so important right at the beginning? Well, because it doesn't matter if you lead sales or marketing or operations, you have to speak the language of business. And the universal language of business, it's always finance.
So what you walk away with are real, tangible skills. You'll learn not just how to read a financial statement, but how to get that every single decision you make, from hiring a new person to spending on marketing, all of it hits the bottom line. It's about connecting what your team does every day to the company's financial health.
Okay, so you've got a handle on leading a team. What's the next level up? Well, that brings us to track 2, the general manager. This is where your focus has to shift from leading people to taking charge of an entire business function.
At this stage, your whole viewpoint has to get bigger. You've got to see how production and sales and marketing and finance all fit together like a giant interconnected machine. You're no longer just responsible for your piece of the puzzle. You're responsible for the whole picture.
And the modules here, they totally reflect that wider systemic view. You're moving past just leading a team and into things like designing production systems or building consulting skills. You're even doing deep dive into specific markets, which forces you to think externally.
All right, after mastering a whole business function, the path leads up, way up. Track 3 is all about evolving into a CEO, which is, of course, the highest level of traditional corporate leadership.
At this level, your job completely changes. It becomes so much less about the day-to-day and all about the long-term vision. You are literally steering the entire ship. You're making the big calls on strategy, you're building a culture of innovation, you are shaping the future of the entire organization.
So naturally, the modules here are super high level. It's all about strategy, innovation, and leadership, both for the company and for yourself. The key shift is going from managing the problems to leading the people who manage the problems. So how do you lead when the buck truly stops with you?
And hey, this isn't just theory. This slide here is just a tiny glimpse of the huge library of video content that supports this whole framework. I mean, you can see topics that range from corporate politics to organizational evolution. It's an absolute treasure trove of practical, on-the-ground insights.
But what if that traditional corporate ladder isn't the only thing you're aiming for? This brings us to a really unique and exciting fourth track, the entrepreneur. This is for those folks who want to build and innovate from within an existing company.
So, an entrepreneur.
It's like being an entrepreneur, but you're doing it with the resources and the safety net of a big, established company. This track is for the innovators, the champions of a new project, the ones who see an opportunity and have that drive to build it into a real, scalable business.
Now, this path has its own unique skill set, right? So the modules here are all about the entire life cycle of a new venture, from that first spark of an idea, to incubating it with processes that can scale, and finally to maturing it into a successful business unit that can stand on its own.
So let's zoom out for a second and look at the complete journey we've just mapped out. What you have is a really comprehensive path for professional growth with clear, tailored stages for a modern leadership career.
So here it is, the complete journey. 4 distinct evolutions. From manager, where you learn to lead other people, to general manager, where you learn to lead a whole system, to CEO, where you learn to lead the entire organization. Or you can choose to forge a totally new path as an entrepreneur, building the future from the inside.
And that brings us right back to the beginning. Your career isn't some final destination. It's a constant evolution. It is a journey. So as you look at this map, the final and most important question is the one you have to answer for yourself. What's your next step?